Good evening. It's Sunday, June 26th, and I'm John Walsh. Our first case tonight begins in Los Angeles. The son of a wealthy Japanese businessman is accused of killing his father to inherit the family fortune. Police say the plot was so ingenious, it was almost the perfect crime.
You know, I've been having a lot of problems with my father, right? Well, I thought of a solution. I'm gonna kill him. And I need your help.
You're serious, aren't you?
According to Los Angeles police, that's the way it began in the early months of 1987. 21-year-old Toru Sakai turned to his best friend with a bizarre request. Sakai was still living at home after a semester at UCLA and had few friends. But he and 21-year-old Greg Meyer, portrayed by these actors, had known each other since they'd played high school tennis together.
Good game.
Toru's father, Glenn Sakai, was an international financier who founded his company, Pacific Partners, to bring Japanese money to Los Angeles. He was president of the LA chapter of the Japanese Chamber of Commerce.
Our sources indicate that Mr. Sakai was afraid that if anything happened to him, it would have been at the hands of his family.
Toru's mother, Sanai Sakai, is descended from one of Japan's 5 noble families and is a distant relative of Emperor Hirohito. She is a former beauty queen who won the 1956 Miss Hibone beauty pageant in Tokyo. In Los Angeles, she managed expensive real estate properties for Japanese clients. In their 21 years of marriage, Toru Sakai's parents had amassed real estate in Los Angeles, Florida, and Tokyo. But according to police, Mrs. Sakai accused her husband of hiding assets from her.
There is some documentation that we have that Mrs. Sakai felt that she was living below her standard, either through class or money or whatever it was, and her husband was to blame that he kept her living at a level that she thought was not her style.
In 1985, Glenn Sakai sued for divorce. When the Sakais separated, Toru continued living with his mother.
I don't know what to do.
According to police, when Mrs. Sakai told her son about her financial fears, he sided with her against his father.
We know that the relationship with his father was strained. It was a very poor relationship. And we know that that relationship led to the eventual murder.
April 1987. According to Greg Meyer, he and Toru Sakai put a carefully orchestrated plan into action.
Well, in our first discussions, Toru said he wanted to kill his dad because he thought it was the only way to solve all his financial problems. I didn't agree with him at first, but after 3 months of constant persuasion, he was able to talk me into limited participation.
Meyer told police that Toru Sakai paid him $1,400 to be his accomplice. According to Meyer, on April 11th, they went to a secluded spot off Malibu Canyon Road in the Santa Monica Mountains. For 2 days, they dug a grave 5 feet long, 3.5 feet wide, and 4 feet deep, designed to hold the body of Glenn Sakai. According to Meyer, Toru Sakai spent the next 2 weeks collecting the materials he needed to carry out the murder.
On April 20th in the afternoon, Toru contacted his father, Mr. Sakai, and asked him to meet him at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Toru explained to his father that his girlfriend was pregnant and that he was the father of the child and that he wanted his father to come over to a house in Beverly Hills and meet with the parents and kind of smooth over the situation.
In fact, their destination was a vacant house that Toru Sakai and his mother were managing for a Japanese businessman. Inside, Meyer was waiting.
The plan was for Toru to bring his dad over to the house where I was going to help Teru subdue him. At that point, Teru was going to take him somewhere else and kill him there.
Once inside the door, Greg came from behind the door and hit Mr. Sakai over the head with a metal pipe.
Somebody help me! Help me!
He and Toru proceeded to beat Mr. Sakai unconscious.
Meyer told police that Teru then handcuffed his father and covered his eyes with tape. And when Mr. Sakai came to, he dragged him to the cellar door.
According to Greg, Mr. Sakai was still alive at that point, calling for help. Toru went to a bag that he had brought with him and brought out a large knife and told Greg to go down and finish off the job. And Greg said, "No way. This was your idea, your plan, your father. You do it."
The coroner reported that Glenn Sakai died of multiple stab wounds. Meyer told police he helped Teru Sakai wrap his father's body in carpet and carry it to his car. Then they drove to Malibu, to the grave they dug 2 weeks before.
My opinion is that the way the body was buried, they absolutely buried it without with the thought in mind that it would never be found.
Meyer told police that the next morning, he and Sakai spent 3 hours repainting the walls and wiping away the traces of blood. Then Meyer drove Glenn Sakai's Mercedes to the Los Angeles airport, with Teru following in his red Porsche. The plan was to make it appear that Mr. Sakai had traveled to Japan. Meyer took the precaution of wearing gloves while driving the Mercedes. But at the airport, he pulled one off and left a perfect thumbprint on the parking stub. The one piece of evidence tying him to the crime. Los Angeles police focused their investigation on the Sakais. On December 3rd, 1987, Mrs. Sakai was brought in for questioning and later released. Toru Sakai was arrested on suspicion of murder.
Toru was visibly nervous, very nervous, shook quite a bit, didn't say much. But he was released eventually because the district attorney's office felt we didn't have enough to file at that time.
But police were able to trace the thumbprint on the parking stub to Greg Meyer. And on January 28th of this year, he was arrested.
I have no idea.
You know anything about Mr. Sakai's disappearance?
No.
Have you ever driven Mr. Sakai's car?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what this is?
No, I don't.
It's a parking ticket from the Los Angeles airport. It has your thumbprint on the back. This was found in Mr. Sakai's car, and it's going to send you to jail for the rest of your life.
I think I can help you.
Greg Meyer led police to Glenn Sakai's grave and agreed to testify in exchange for immunity from prosecution. His confession has resulted in a murder warrant for Teru Sakai.